I felt a burden lately of those who are calling out others and naming them false prophets, or just speaking against others in general. I've been called a false prophet before. People have spoken out against the night writings the Lord has given me, and others have come against me, called me possessed, and some have even threatened me. So I feel I know what it's like to be on that side of the fence. I've learned much in the 6 or so years that I've been a watcher, and I believe that the Lord continues to teach us each day, little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept. I'd like to share with you something that the Lord has been teaching me lately. God has given me an analytical mind, and this has helped me greatly in my job with accounting. This helps me not only with employment, but with knowing if God is speaking to someone or if it is the enemy. Not only do I analyze, but He taught me how to hear the false words of the fallen. One way was by studying channelings back in 2012 as part of my learning. So when I first started reading actual words from God, I was very skeptical because at that point I had never read anything but the Bible in regards to His Word. But I could just tell that these new prophetic words I was reading or listening to were not from the enemy. Here we are 6 years later, and for the most part, it's easier these days for us to tell what is from God, including dreams and visions, and what is not. At the same time, we've been warned that there are more false prophets than ever these days, so it is critical that we compare all things with the Bible, the holy and inspired Word of God. I feel my purpose right now is to keep my website up to date with whatever God wants posted. I'm very blessed to be able to have a website that focuses on the remnant bride and finding more of this group and gently explaining to them who they are in Christ. Those people that have dreams and visions and words about an island or training or darkness or calamities, while they're still here, they don't understand what God is showing them. But based on what we've learned, we can tell them. I get very excited when I find someone that has had dreams of wearing a wedding dress, etc. It's just really awesome to me. So I constantly look for these words and dreams and visions that are an encouragement to you guys as well. Because of this, sometimes I get excited about something I read, so I go back and I read many things from an individual in order to make a well-rounded conclusion to know if they're hearing from God or not. Now, here's the thing. At times, there are some very tricky words, or maybe there's information that they said would happen, but it did not come to pass. I'm very strict with how I read these things because to me, God is either speaking to someone or He is not. If I feel He is not, then those things don't get posted. And I generally never read or follow that person again, and I don't make excuses for them or excuses for God in order to continue to post the words. In the past, I considered them false through and through. But recently, the Lord has begun showing me that there's reason for what seems to be conflicting words at times. It is that these people may have a different audience, that the Lord wants these people to see or discover something in what He is showing them, and I'm not part of that, and I'm not to post it. I know some people who have had the strangest ideas which they personally feel are from God. Okay, others are given specific dates, specific events that have not come to pass on those dates. Others have had actual words that they feel are from God that to me seem way off kilter. But these past years have shown me, and all of us, I hope, that we are not to judge, and this message is for all of us. Who are we to judge? What if we're wrong? Do we really want to speak ill of someone, making public that we think they are a false prophet, and then find out later that we were wrong? The Lord has held me back with communicating with certain people I have communicated with in the past, and I don't know why. I used to think it was because there was a problem with them, but now I'm feeling that God might just be having me to focus on other areas, and I don't know the whole story with that person. God does not reveal everything to us, so why should He? We're just supposed to obey Him. He is God, and His plan is perfect, and when we meddle with it, we can mess things up. So instead of calling someone out, we should just stay quiet and obey what He tells us to do or not to do in this instance. Let me give you an example of this that I believe you can relate to. For the most part, you that are listening to this video or reading the transcript, you've learned But there are some things to happen before the rapture. There's a ginormous earthquake coming to the United States. There's 3 days of darkness coming. There's going to be fallen angels appearing as alien saviors to come rescue us. And there's a pole shift. These things take place before the rapture, in my opinion, after many years of putting the pieces together from the Bible, dreams, visions, and prophetic words by people I believe hear from God. However, there are those prophets and others that say the rapture is imminent. Does that mean they're not hearing from God? I no longer say no. What if people most directed to hear those videos and posts are those in the harvest period that are going to be called in? If so, then what those people are saying at that time will be true at the time. The rapture will indeed be imminent, because no one knows the day or the hour of that particular event. Remember that this is what we used to believe, that the rapture could occur at any second. I felt that when I learned about that from my grandpa 50 years ago. I know he would believe it to a point where he would not even allow my mother to go to college. That's how strong his belief was. So we were wrong about that, but at times, and even today, some are still preaching imminent rapture and using that teaching in tapes and videos. Another example, what if someone is given a date? Let's just say June the 4th. I've actually heard that date being thrown around. We know this is Pentecost this year in 2017, but if no event occurs then, is that person false? Did they give the year as well? If not, we don't know what year the message is about. It could even be years in the future. Imagine those folks that have been hearing from the Lord for decades, and have had words of soon and now is the time and tomorrow. Little did they know that this would include many more years for them. I'm not saying this is the case for us now, but we need to really pay attention to what the Lord is saying. At the same time, I've heard or read a date given, and many people jump right on the bandwagon and assume that's the date of our transformation. We want to go home so badly that it's as if we could pour our heart and soul into the timing, and surely this time God will fulfill our desires of completing the transformation. But then that date or event passes and nothing seems to happen. When we set our minds and hopes on a person other than Jesus, that's where the problem begins. From the absolute people that I trust have heard 100% from God in the past 6 years, none of them have set a date for anything. In fact, the only date that I've seen set that has any authority from God is September 23rd. And generally, it's in relation to Revelation 12, 1 and 2. Pardon me, but what does it mean? I'm not totally sure. I just know that God has set a date in the sky for things to happen. And that's an exact date, and I'm watching it like a hawk. Ironically, there are those that are determined never to give any dates whatsoever. I'm not a date setter, they say. But what if God gives them a date sometime? Who are they to deny his command? If they are obeying God, they'll give that date. But you know it will never be the date of the rapture. God does not give that date out. He said so, and we should believe it. It takes time away from contemplating more important things when we start thinking about it. And remember, the rapture isn't imminent anyway. But our transformation does seem to be. And once we are transformed, we will be filled with such joy and purpose that the rapture will seem to come very quickly. Kind of like when you're focused on working or playing and the time just flies by. And after the transformation, I believe our faith will be so unshakable, and we will know without a doubt the rapture is very, very near. Lastly, I would encourage you to become Christlike in your actions, especially when speaking. When you feel another person is in the wrong, don't mimic their voice. As much as I like Steve Quayle and I'm learning from him, he does this, and I've heard others too. They just start going to try to tell you what someone else says. It's a snarky thing to do, and I doubt if Jesus ever did it. My daughter and I were having a discussion about apologizing to a coworker, even though the coworker was clearly in the wrong. In my case, I spent the night after an argument occurred knowing I was right, but that my coworker would constantly hold this against me, as she does not know the Lord. If I was to do what Jesus would do, it would be to apologize, were to turn the other cheek. So the next day, I apologized profusely, and she was so happy, she brought in dessert for everyone's lunch. I knew she felt better in her spirit about her pain because she does not have many friends. We have to get past the part where we are right and they are wrong, no matter what. My daughter had the same event occur with her coworker, and as she told me this at home one day, I tried to tell her to apologize, even though it was not her fault. I could see her face that expression of, "No, I'm not at fault here." I said, "But what would Jesus do?" You see, it's our flesh that makes us do these things, even make snarky faces or comments. Do you think Jesus ever made a face like that? No, he would turn the other cheek. He even died for people like us. He certainly knew the right thing to do to change our life forever so we could live eternally with him. And he loves those people, those very people that you are making those comments about or mimicking their voice. So rather than be possibly wrong or certainly be incorrect, we should just stay quiet about these things. We're given the best advice from the Bible, so I'll close with these 3 verses from Proverbs 21:23. Whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. Ephesians 4:29. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. And finally, James 1:26. If anyone thinks he's religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Don't be that person, guys.